So excited. There we go. I'm very excited to be chatting with you today. Luckily, I have my screenplay right here, right next to me. Um, I mean, what an awesome year it's been for you. I'm sure, I mean, this is your first feature. How are you feeling after, this premiering at Sundance back in January? I know it's been a busy time.
No, I mean it's been amazing. I think that my the biggest kind of I would say accomplishment that I'm feeling over everything is just the conversation, that this film has generated and debate and that's really why I made this movie. I think that it's for me it's like I just I don't think that it's enough to just make a good movie anymore. I think that it really has to say something that either hasn't been said or say something, with a new angle and something that is holding a mirror up to how each of us are, and this was just a subject matter that I felt had not been really talked about or explored and really like I'm a filmmaker and I'm a writer who writes my fears. Like I write what terrifies me. I write what I'm afraid to talk about or afraid to confront or afraid to acknowledge. And this was something that I was quite terrified of for many years. And I think that's what really got me to writing the film, and sounding the alarm and saying that these things that have frightened me, or should not be normalized in the way that I was normalizing them. And I think that the way that so many of us normalize these dynamics and these unspoken tensions. And I think what's just been really riveting is just that it's opened up this conversation on these topics that have been so pushed down.
Absolutely. And I would say like this is a very fearful film in a lot of ways, not because it's purely horror or anything, classic horror elements, but just even reading through the screenplay the last few days and seeing how much of a stark difference from where we start to where we end up throughout this film. It's a scary ride for this couple. And as you said, for so many out there who are probably facing similar situations or have gone through something like this. Yeah, was this a really hard, scary writing process, as you've kind of already mentioned, that you try to write those things that, are a little bit more fearful?
I would say the writing process was actually the most freeing part because I would say the most frightening part was holding it inside, and being afraid to acknowledge it because that's what was like really scary was this, over as I was experiencing these kinds of dynamics over and over again. It's something that I was afraid to admit that that's what was really going on in the relationship, because what would that say about me and my choice of partner, that I was with a man who was threatened by me on some level, and the ways in which I coped with it, which was by undermining myself or minimizing myself to protect that man and protect, that ego. So I think by the time I got to writing it, it was just so freeing. It was like this weight lifted where it's like, finally, I got to unleash something that I had been holding for so many years. And then once I did, it was, there was a really cathartic element to it. And I also think what helped with the cathartic, process was the fact that I'm someone who likes to take something that's deeply personal, like a deeply personal feeling or fear, and put it against the backdrop of something new and something different, and some new territory to explore, which was by setting it with, these characters in the world of finance, which is something I knew nothing about. But I think it's like that exploring new territory and that having that separation helped with, being objective with this, the personal element that I was bringing to the script.
Well, you wouldn't know by reading this screenplay and also by watching the film that you are like coming into the finance world totally blind, because you're like putting really like hardcore elements in here of what I assume it might be like to work at one of these hedge fund companies or just what it's like to be on Wall Street. What was it like navigating that side of it? Because yeah, I'm sure it's always a little intimidating to go into a whole new territory.
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly, that part was the easy part, I have to say, because that stuff was just more, I felt like logistical and technical, on some level. I would say the hardest part of the script was the emotional arcs and just really navigating this trying to just constantly dial, at the right pace and the right momentum, this pressure cooker thriller, that I was trying to create. And I think that was and also at what points, do we shift our empathy, for the certain characters, and just really mapping that out. I think that took the most amount of work and effort and thought. I would say the finance of it all, like that was just kind of like learning a new language, like learning Spanish or Italian. And once I did kind of learn Spanish or Italian, like then it just felt like studying for a math test, but I actually felt like the technical jargon of it all was I do think the easiest part of it. I think the harder parts were all the other things that go into writing a script that you want to make compelling and profound, and have emotional weight and impact. I think and also for me, I think that the biggest challenge was I wanted to create a film that didn't really have any breath. I wanted to just that as soon as the conflict turns in the script and the power flips, like I had this idea that at that point, like I wanted to slowly strangle the audience and not allow them to breathe, until the very last scene. And that was very intentional. Like when she stands up and exhales, like that's the first time that Emily gets to breathe throughout the whole film. And that's the first time that I wanted the audience to be able to breathe. So like that was also took a lot of work of just how can I create this thriller that just keeps people on the edge of their seat and just slowly chokes them out.
And you feel that tension just constantly building. Like it's maybe a little slow and gradual in the beginning, but then it just like seems like every little thing there's something going wrong with this couple. And it's really very, very well done, not only from the writing aspect, but from your two lead actors in this film. I did also want to ask, since this is coming from personal territory in your own life, where do you decide when it comes to how much of the personal things that you want to either document or showcase in a film such as this, and some of the things that you would rather leave out, whether it's the emotional aspects, other emotional aspects?
Mm-hmm. I think, for me, it was really just like the feeling that I wanted to, if it was writing from that feeling, and I think writing from that fear, and it was really the first scene that I ever wrote for this film was the scene where Emily gets promoted, and her first reaction isn't excitement, it's fear.
Yeah.
Fear that her rise will cost her relationship, and that is something that I have felt over and over and over and over again. And so that's where I started with it. And like I said, I think that from there, the feeling of like having then, like Luke, what happens from there is like he then internalizes, his pain and his disappointment, his shock, right? But at a certain point in the film, and it's really the no turning back point in the film, he starts to weaponize his insecurity and weaponize his pain against her, right? Through passive aggressive comments, through then emotional abuse, and then more verbal abuse, and then eventually physical assault. But there were degrees of this that I've experienced, certain shades that I've experienced, and then for the sake of drama, I wanted to push it. I wanted to push the envelope into fictional territories, because I just think that that's exciting for me as a writer, to take some feeling and then that I've felt, and then just push it as far as it can possibly go for the sake of entertainment, for the sake of drama. So I don't know. I think it was always just about staying true to the feeling and the intention. And then as a writer and an artist, was about, okay, pushing it to fictional places, for the sake of creating an entertaining movie and a riveting film.
With Phoebe and Alden joining this project, was it, since you obviously had so much of the creative control here as writer and director, did you know going into this you were thinking of them to who were your perfect, matches for these two honestly powerhouse forces in this film, and truly incredible results from these two vastly talented actors? It was so awesome to see them in these roles.
It's I feel like when I'd been a big fan of Alden's for a while, and he was on my list of someone that I really wanted to work with, and who I had in mind for Luke. So I was very excited when he responded to the script, and because I just felt like he is going to give this character layers of complexity, and also when I first met him, I think the most important thing was he never once judged the character. And I met with other actors who were immediately kind of shitting on the character and dismissing the character, or saying, yeah, this guy's a total, and I was just like, that's not the way into this movie. Even if he is the villain, we as a collaborators have to have empathy for him, in what he's struggling with, to be able to, I think, go the journey that it needs, and also give it the layers of just interesting layers where it doesn't feel black and white, and it doesn't, because this isn't a man who is a bad man, he's not a bad man for having these feelings. These feelings are not his fault. This is a societal systemic problem that raises boys to believe that masculinity is an identity. What was instilled in him and how he was wired, is not his fault. However, what he does with those feelings are on him, and that is not acceptable. So, but I think what was great about just Alden is he never once judged the character, and when talking to him and directing him on set, I never once judged the character in front of him. I was always, saying, you're in pain. You believe that this was robbed, that this is something that you deserved, and and going from that, because otherwise I just felt like we could have villainized the character in a way that just would have been really one-dimensional. Yeah. And I just don't think that that's a reflection of what is accurate, out there. I think that what I really want to show this character is that Luke represents many generations of men caught in the middle between adhering to a modern feminist society, but still haven't been raised on, traditional gender roles and traditional ideas of masculinity. And it's that struggle between those two things, the struggle between wanting to support her and genuinely, adoring her and loving her for all of her strengths, but also this feeling like he needs to get there first. And I think that it's the fight between those two things that what makes an interesting character. And I just knew that Alden would give that to me on a level that other actors couldn't. And then in terms of Phoebe, what was important to me is that Emily is a rising star in that world, right? And so I was looking for a rising star, and I think she had that buzz to her, kind of coming off of Bridgerton, but she hadn't made a splash in the feature space. And so that was really exciting to me. But really, it was when, honing in on her performances, and I could tell that she was an incredibly versatile actor. I could tell that she had a wide range, that she could go to these, that she could play both warm and loving and vulnerable, but also fierce and bite your head off, and I think that was the range that we needed for this character. And I just watching her performance, I could tell she had that potential. And even though I hadn't exactly seen it, I had a gut feeling that she could go to those places. And then when I put them in the same room together, I believe them as a couple. I believe And not only that, I wanted to watch them. I wanted to watch them as a couple. You know, there's some couples you put together and you're like, yeah, I believe them, but I don't necessarily want to watch. But no, I wanted to watch them love each other, and I wanted to watch them destroy each other. And that's why I cast them.
And yeah, you see, like I said earlier, you see them in the beginning of the film and you
Yeah.
see where they end up totally different situations, and it's exciting to watch. I mean, I know I have to wrap up with you in just a little bit, but what an awesome splash that you've made with this feature film. I'm so excited to see more work from you. And yeah, I mean, just amazing year.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.